What's up everyone, Alex here. Platinum Games is often cited as the premier studio when it comes to high-octane action games with a superb level of polish. Nah, not you. Which tie in neatly with their slogan, Platinum never loses its luster. In this video, I want to celebrate the legacy of this incredible developer by listing 5 diverse games from their catalog, and more importantly, to see if you played any of them. And for newcomers, I also believe that some of the games featured here are largely their most approachable titles, which is saying something considering the general focus on technical and skilled play prevalent amongst their games. That said, I present 2 caveats here. 1, I'll be restricting this to 1 game per series. This would be a boring list if half of it was dominated by a single series after all. And 2, I want to highlight some games that people might have missed that were also made by Platinum. At any rate, let's jump right into the fray. Many of us who grew up playing the original Metal Gear Solid on the PS1 no doubt had the same thought cross our minds. Man, wouldn't it be awesome if there was a game where you played as the cyborg ninja Gray Fox? It took about 15 years, but that wish finally came true. Sort of. While you aren't playing as Gray Fox specifically, the spirit of that idea did come to fruition in the form of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Metal Gear Rising is a short but ever so sweet experience where you get to play as the cyborg Raiden as he slices and dices everyone and everything like he's some sort of butcher. Unlike the careful stealth needed in the mainline series, however, Rising goes all in on the gloriously over-the-top bombastic action that we've come to know and love from Platinum. While the combat is not quite as meaty or deep as some of their other games, the sense of speed and the visceral nature of slicing through foes and objects grants the game a wholly unique feel. But what really sets it apart from other games is your ability to precisely control sword swings in order to cut through specific limbs and things of that nature. This feature alone transforms Metal Gear Rising into something that is unlike anything out there. And while this game does take place some years after Metal Gear Solid 4, with some story beats potentially leaving your head scratching if you're new to the series, this violent romp is predominantly a new story, complete with a fresh new cast, and can be enjoyed without any homework. Bottom line, when it comes to slicing and dicing, few titles rise to the occasion quite like this one. When you think of Platinum games, third-person cover shooters probably don't come to mind. And yet, here it is, a third-person cover shooter in all of its glory. As you might expect, Vanquish wouldn't be a Platinum Games title if it didn't mess with the formula in some interesting ways. For starters, this is a game that primarily focuses on speed rather than actually hiding behind cover. The protagonist, Sam Gideon, wears a futuristic combat suit that allows him to use a jet-propelled slide ability in order to quickly maneuver around levels. On top of this, he's also capable of slowing down time in order to get off crazy trick shots, as well as perform lethal melee takedowns to dispatch foes. It takes these seemingly mundane mechanics and amplifies them with over-the-top spectacle, while also injecting them with tons of depth and nuance. When it comes to Platinum, style is the substance, and that design ethos is truly exemplified in this title. These elements are what sets Vanquish apart from your run-of-the-mill cover shooter, and makes it worthy of the Platinum Games label. Now I know what you're thinking. Really? A Transformers license game? That can't be any good. But trust me when I say that this game is more than meets the eye. From the wonderfully bright visuals to the speedy and combo-driven combat, this game is way better than it has any right to be. In fact, fans of action RPGs in particular should really give this game their attention, as there are a lot of leveling and loot gathering to be had in this title. You're frequently rewarded with currency, new weapons, and gear that not only increase stats, but also change your playstyle. From pistols to swords, cannons to axes, the variety here just means the combat will always feel varied and fresh. Given that the last time I really watched Transformers was back in the 80s, I can't really tell you much of anything in regards to the story or how it fits into the canon. But truth be told, much like most games by Platinum, the story isn't what's important here. I came to this game purely as a fan of the developer, and from that perspective alone, I was not disappointed. That said, the license does not feel wasted on this game, as there are mechanics and abilities specific to these characters that meaningfully add to the gameplay experience. Being able to transform to drive around or even transform mid-combo in order to slam into enemies are just a couple of examples of how these small details will be sure to delight fans. So if you enjoy frantic combo-based action games with some loot-based leveling and upgrading, Transformers Devastation is the sleeper hit in disguise. To this day, the original Bayonetta is still considered to be one of the very best games to come from Platinum, and for good reason. The style, the music, the combat, the crazy characters, these all come together for an unforgettable experience. Bayonetta herself is a larger-than-life personality, a fact that permeates in every aspect of her character, down to her movements and combat animations. When it comes to Platinum games, style is the substance, and that mantra is taken to the extreme here. Whether she's strutting around at a leisurely pace, flipping around to dodge, or performing lavish-looking guillotine executions, all of her animations convey a sense of extravagance, as if to say that even during the heat of battle, she refuses to succumb to outside pressure, maintaining her fabulosity like none other. But it isn't enough that she looks and plays amazing, as Bayonetta is one of the deepest action games ever produced by the developer. From the insane arsenal of weapons at your disposal, the insanely long list of moves in your arsenal, and a sizable roster of engaging enemies, it all makes for one of the absolute best titles in the genre. If this deeper, faster, and more visceral action game hasn't intimidated you yet, then you're gonna wanna give this game a shot. A common thread amongst all of Platinum's titles is the weakness found in the writing department. That is, until we were graced with Yoko Taro's magnum opus, Nier Automata. What's interesting to note about this is that Yoko Taro's previous games were predominantly praised for their writing, but suffered greatly in the gameplay department, which is what made this collaboration all the more fascinating. It's as though the story director finally got the right team and resources together to make the masterpiece he's always wanted to create. Unlike every other game mentioned on this list, combat takes a bit of a backseat here, in favor of telling a gripping, thematically rich narrative that deals with nihilism, existentialism, and the concept of sentience. Despite that, its gameplay is still very well made and polished, with some fun combat and inventive set pieces that alter its base gameplay in imaginative and fascinating ways. If, for whatever reason, you still haven't tried this epic, you owe it to yourself to experience this modern classic. And that, my friends, are just a few of the awesome games Platinum's developed over the years. I'll be the first to admit that Platinum has had some ups and downs over the years, but I wanted this video to be a reminder that they have made some wonderful games that are truly worth celebrating. Heck, there are even some other great ones that didn't make the list for one reason or another. But that's where you come in. Sound off on your favorite Platinum games in the comments below, and let's talk about it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.